Good morning. I am going to go through the different activities that I selected this week. We um, are trying to keep in line with what Fulton County wants the expectations to be. They need to be manageable, that you don't need a device to complete them. They need to be manageable, that they are only 30 minutes, that you don't have a whole lot of extra papers and activity pages to sort through because we weren't able to get those workbooks out to everybody. We can't follow a traditional format of just assigning an activity and expecting everybody to be able to complete it in that manner. So that's why they provided second grade and under with a choice board. Second graders are only required 60 minutes of instruction a day, but I'm getting such conflicting things on um, not enough information, too much information, too many resources, not enough resources. And so it's kind of hard to find that balance. So I'm trying to do that as best as I can for you guys and for your kids. This is new territory for all of us. So we are trying to take your suggestions and adapt them as best as we can. Obviously, we can't for all of them, and we still have those requirements that have to be met, and the expectations have to be such that all of our learners can accomplish them. So while individualized instruction and small group instruction is ideally how we run our classes, we also have 7 hours of the day to do those. However, now we're narrowed down to the 1 hour, and it can become quite challenging to make sure we're reaching all of our students in the most meaningful way. So I'm trying to do that through these videos. I'm trying to do that through additional resources for those of you that are asking for it. I'm trying to provide different worksheet formats and links and articles and things like that. And I'm trying to manage it in as concise of a way as possible. However, we're doing this all from day to day to day, and we're trying to complete last week's activities while working on this week's, and also trying to think ahead to how we're going to format this and change this for the foreseeable future. So I really appreciate your patience, and this was a suggestion was from you guys to kind of have how I was going to outline my week. With math, it was a little bit easier to align it how I would normally teach it. However, the choice board we selected might not have been the exact activities I would do. They're just a creative, fun way for you guys to practice shapes this week. For reading and ELA, we talked about focusing a little bit more next week on informational text. So we'll kind of remove that literary text section and focus on some different informational skills. But this week I kind of chose to do one from each and plan to highlight that. So with all that being said, I hope that these resources are helpful for you. If they are not, then let me know so that way I know I don't need to forward them to you guys and come up with them in this format. But I hope that it does give you a little bit of an idea of where you can go with the week. Obviously, these are the activities that I selected for the day. They do not have to be what yours are. If you want to do them in a different order, you want to use these videos later on in the week and use it, that's fine. If you want to just show it to your kid, you could start it in a couple minutes or 30 seconds here and just say, okay, here's where we're going to start for today's activity. So with that all being said, let me go ahead and start with our reading ELA. I'm a little bit behind. So today I chose to talk about activities A and E to focus on talking about fluency. Fluency when we're talking about math is we're talking about the facts and making sure that we're fluent in our facts. We know them backwards and forwards. Well, as readers, we want to know there are thousands of words in the English language, so we want to be fluent in knowing sight words that don't follow a particular pattern. We also want to make sure that when we're reading, we're not just able to decode the words and we're able to read them, but we want to think about our speed, how we're reading, the tone of our voice. We're going to be thinking about the dialogue and the mood of the story, and if it's, a really happy moment, we don't want to sound like this. So as we're reading, we need to pay attention to those punctuation, those quotation marks. We need to think about what's going on in the story so that we can be better equipped to read the story out loud. A lot of times we read in our heads, and so we interpret that in our heads, but when we're asked to put it out loud, it can be a much more challenging skill. That is a skill that we practice in our small groups. That is a skill that we practice when we're reading with our buddies, but can you do it when you're on your own, or can you do it when you're asked to in front of a group of people, however small that group may be? So with that, I did send out this additional resources link last night. There are 2 different YouTube videos on reading fluently. The first one, I believe, is the Dolch words. These are predetermined. They are used widely across the nation. These are common 2nd grade sight words. They should be pretty easy for you guys to read, especially at this point in the year. So if you want to make sure you know all of these words. These are the 2nd grade words. There are further lists. You would just search for this Dolch words. Those are the predetermined sight words that do not follow our typical reading patterns for our readers. So that's where this list comes from. But it does give you the words if you want to practice those. It's great for a review and just making sure that you know those. You can also continue to search for other grade levels and things like that if you want to challenge yourself and look for a little bit higher level. The other video is from Go Noodle, which we love. And it is Blazer Fresh, which is my favorite channel on there. I think they do a great job. And so their video is all about not reading like a robot. So when we're reading fluently, we want to use expression, we want to change our voice, we want to look at the punctuation marks and think about our characters and such. And this video will kind of walk you through that. So I'm not going to play those. Those will be linked on the additional resources over here. I'm torn on the feedback of whether to post them onto Seesaw, so you have the direct link in Seesaw, or if you'd rather I'm here. I think for today, my plan is going to be stick to focusing on sharing the resources as this PDF. Perhaps I can do that. And then maybe one video, one activity to go with each subject for the day. So I haven't fully wrap my head around that. I'm still getting that feedback from you guys, trying to figure it out. So reminder that anything that is posted on Seesaw is extra. It does not have to be done. It does not need to be watched. It does not need to be completed, but it is just there as a resource for you. So one of the other things that we're going to try to highlight is a grammar skill for the week. This week's will continue to be compound words. It is a review. We want to try not to introduce anything too new at this point because not all of our students are accessing the videos, not all of our students are accessing the additional resources. So we're trying to check in with everybody as needed. Our county spans across such a large distance that we want to make sure that all of our students are receiving the same level of instruction. And it's awesome that some of you guys are able to provide so much, but some of our parents are working from home. Some have different kids in different grade levels that they're trying to manage. So we are trying to narrow down some expectations for some of the things while still advancing our curriculum as much as we can. So this week's is a review on compound words. I did post in the additional resources link that there is that Brain Pop Junior video on compound words. So if you didn't watch it last week, that is there. And then it goes through the quizzes and it goes through some different activities and things like that with compound words. It's a big 2nd grade skill for them to have, the understanding of these 2 words that are separate, but then when combined create something new. A lot of our students still want to keep that space there, even though they're referencing something. Let's say if most don't with this particular word, butterfly. So we have butter and we have fly, and we know that those 2 totally different things mean something different than when they're combined for that compound word. Sometimes they'll still put that little space there, even though they're referencing the insect. So that's something to pay attention to in not just our understanding of compound words, but our ability to use them in a sentence as well. Nearpod is an app that we have used in class. It is an app, but it's also a web-based application, so you can do it on both. If your students are not familiar with it, it's pretty simple. There will just be a code, and you can see there's another one up here, and then there's another one down here. So there's some different ones for you to explore with. You just are going to copy that code and you're going to enter it in under the students. Oh, it's not going to copy. Hold on 1 second. So ours was BYNLI. And then you just join the lesson. And then from there, it's going to be a student-led, a student-directed lesson. So it's going to ask me to put my name in. We want to make sure that we are actually putting in our name and not somebody else's, or not messing around with things. So that way, if there is any assessment or anything like that, then we can accurately check it. So this is meant to be an exit ticket. It's meant to be a quick check. I get the feedback right away so I can see how they're doing with it. This is something that I might link in Seesaw as well. They tend to really enjoy Nearpod. There's a lot of different activities and different ways we can use this. But it's just going to be a quiz for them to practice. Using 2 different colors, color the 2 words that make up. So then they've got all these tools down here. They can actually draw through and follow the directions that are on there. So this one is on compound words, so it's not really teaching them any new information, although some of them will go through a video or a slideshow demonstration to teach the new skill. So I hope that these additional resources here are going to be helpful to the different text boxes that you are trying to find and locate from the choice board. I hope that this suggested we get a glance can help give you a little bit more guidance on that. As I said before, we're trying to figure out what worked from last week, apply it to this week, thinking ahead to next week. So we're trying to manage as best as we can and provide you with the resources without it trying to be overwhelming. So reminder that this is all here as a resource. The main thing you have to do is just complete 1 activity in reading and 1 activity in math. We are discussing grading and things like that and how we're going to do that, and we will communicate that with you as we can, trying to limit the amount of additional communication outside of 1 to 2 emails per week, so that way that can hopefully help. But as new things come in, we'll share that with you. So I will be working on math. I will be posting 2 separate videos later today for our on-level kids and our accelerated kids. If your child is in advanced, I will check in with their teachers and see if there's anything that they want them to be completed, or you can feel free to reach out to them as well. Just let me know on a case-by-case with that. As I said, in our 2.1 level, we're doing 2D and 3D shapes this week. It should be a review for most of you, but we will go through some specifics there. And then we're doing some fraction review and fractions on a number line in our accelerated programs. I look forward to everything that you post on Seesaw. I really love to see what you come up with. I didn't quite go over the fluency activity. I did go over the extra resources, but I meant to go over that, so I'm going to do that real quick. One of the things we noticed that as readers is reading multiple times allows us to not only process the words, but to be able to speak them in a more fluent way. So for this activity, it was to set a timer for 1 minute, start reading out loud, because as we stumble on words, that tends to take a little bit longer for us. So as I'm reading out loud, then what I would do is I would pause and then I would mark, which unfortunately I'm not in the right program today. I can post this on Seesaw as well. You know, I'll play around with what I feel like is too much based on the feedback. But let's say I got to here today, then I would mark with a red mark. And then either the second time I can read today, or I could read it tomorrow. I could do 1 each day. That's typically how we want to do it, is read 1 each day. Mark here, continue reading through, and then the next day, go back over, read again, see how far you can get. Can you get further with reading fluently? We want to be careful we're not reading too fluently. Sometimes we start to speed read, and then we're not really paying attention to the words either. So fluency is all about a balance as you're working on it. So I look forward to seeing what you do today.